In March 1989, Tim Berners-Lee wrote a memo that led eventually to the World Wide Web, and in just under 60 years, the internet went from being an obscure research idea to a technology that is now used by over 3.2 billion people. Since becoming commercially available, the internet has made our lives undeniably better, allowing us share information, communicate, and work with relative ease. There's almost no facet of human life that remains untouched by the internet. Other technologies which had a comparable impact on society had to reach maturity before they could do so, but the internet is actually still in its adolescence. So today we'll be discussing the ways in which the internet could evolve in the next 30 years, and how the evolution will affect the average Joe and society at large. Now before we continue, I'd like you all to know I make new videos every week on Sundays, so please leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting content. Just as the internet is still in its adolescence, so is the current infrastructure surrounding it. This is why even nations which are at the pinnacle of information technology still suffer from random network outages and other issues related to downtime. Eventually, the cost of producing ultra-high-speed networks will decrease, allowing the average consumer to download a high-definition movie in a matter of seconds, or play cloud-based video games without a hint of lag. A fast and globally ubiquitous internet would also have significant implications on our society. For one, people will be more willing to digitize every aspect of their lives, knowing that they could access the information no matter where they find themselves. The power of celebrities and social media influencers could actually rival entire governments, as these people will be capable of swaying public opinion on a global scale by sharing a few words on a social platform. This would inadvertently make social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube arguably the most powerful media entities on planet Earth. The Cambridge Analytica scandal is a clear marker of what one of these entities could do if they chose to use the power at their disposal. As the internet chugs on towards a persistent and always-on state, we will see technologies like virtual reality and mixed reality become an indispensable facet of human life. Although the VR headsets of today are still clunky and relatively unresponsive when compared to our biological senses, VR technology of the future will bring us to the point where the virtual experiences we create will be indistinguishable from reality. Now when you combine hyper-realistic VR with an ultra-fast and always-on internet, the result is a virtual experience not so far from what we've seen in movies like The Matrix and Ready Player One. These virtual worlds will allow people to live out their lives online, creating their own virtual persistent realities and only needing to come out for food or sleep. Technologies like mixed reality would also provide those who are unwilling to commit to a virtual existence a means of accessing the benefits of virtual reality while they go about their daily lives. The internet of the future will bring the sharing economy to full maturity and global acceptance. Today we see companies like Airbnb and Lyft which provide customers with a means of sharing resources efficiently for a fee. Although quite useful, these solutions are still rudimentary and will drastically evolve in the coming years. For one, companies of the future will adopt resource sharing and collaboration. People will not need large companies like Uber in order to share their resources, as these tools will become peer-to-peer and no longer require a regulatory third party. We could even reach a point where governments would carry out wealth and tax allocation schemes simply by monitoring the financial and social requirements of its citizens. This will lead to the emergence of the open society, also known as the post-privacy society. Now in such a society, people will largely be comfortable with sharing their personal lives online with not only each other, but their governments as well, without fear of discrimination or persecution. The Internet of Things will play a large role in a globally open society, feeding data to governments who will use it as a tool to understand the deeper needs of its citizens. Recording and analyzing the tiniest actions we take, companies of the future will use the data to predict our wants and needs before we even know what they are. We already see this happening in some form or the other with our smart wearables and home assistants, but even something as innocuous as a lamp will be used to keep tabs on us not too long from now. Inasmuch as this seems to be a path we are headed towards, there will still be holdouts, those who feel the need to protect their personal data from prying eyes. And why not? Systems like the Chinese social credit score punish Chinese citizens for things like posting fake news online, criticizing the government, visiting unauthorized websites, and calling people who have low credit scores. It is not a stretch to think that these systems will spread across the globe as the adoption of the Internet of Things accelerates, adding a far more invasive layer of control than what is traditionally attainable. Imagine going to buy groceries with your credit card sometime in the future, but then having your payment declined because someone in an office somewhere thinks you posted something hateful on the internet. That could be our collective future. So how does one become invisible in such a future? At this point, it won't be a simple case of turning off your computer or deactivating a social media account, since the monitoring systems of the future will be far more invasive and far less visible than they are today. No, to remain out of sight and relatively private, people will look to companies who specialize in keeping your data away from companies and governments alike. Privacy as a service will become a big deal in the future, something you subscribe to just as you would a Netflix account. Just as certain individuals will inevitably push back against an open society, so will some governments and companies push for a separate or limited internet, leading to fragmentation. We have already seen fragmentation rear its head in countries like China in the form of content censorship and in the US with the ongoing struggle for net neutrality. However, in the future, this issue could get so serious that you would need to find out what you are permitted or capable of doing on the internet, depending on your location. Just as the internet of the future will mature and become more powerful, so will its mirror twin, which we know as the dark web or darknet if you prefer. Unseen but ever present, the dark web of the future will be more decentralized, harder to censor, and even more customer friendly. Online marketplaces as large as Amazon will spring up, which specialize in the sale of items and services of all kinds, which would ordinarily be unavailable to the average person. Want to buy a fake passport or perhaps hire a hacker to ruin your company's image? It will all just be a few clicks away. Tools like this will ultimately lead to a faction of society who exists completely outside the eye of their respective governments. A dark society operating by its own rules. Now, although the fear of what nations and companies could do with the data gained from an open society is both healthy and understandable, it certainly pales in comparison to what a dark society ruled by anonymous entities could achieve. Not everyone who logs into a darknet website will be looking for a fake ID or some weed. Others could be there to purchase a weaponized virus or even a dirty bomb. Suffice to say, the dark web of the future is not something to be taken lightly, and I for one hope we are able to keep that part of society in check before it's too late. Today, with the presence of supercomputers and petabytes of stored data available on the internet, we have been able to build artificial intelligence systems which serve so many purposes such as content curation, online moderation, and even commercially available chatbots. The progress of artificial intelligence over the past decade has been nothing short of astonishing, but can these systems really be considered as intelligent? Evidently, even narrow AI today is nowhere near working just yet in scenarios where it needs to perform accurately 100% of the time. And we can see examples of this in the spate of self-driving tech-related accidents and deaths. The truth is, current AI systems utilize supervised learning to create an illusion of intelligence. But at its core, it's just a mathematical optimization. Even though it possesses an ability to make decisions and classify datasets, it's very narrow in the way it works. However, this might not be the case for much longer. Over the last couple of years, fundamental AI research has been increasingly conducted by large companies like Google, Facebook, Uber, and Tencent, just to name a few. Most, if not all of these companies are chasing artificial general intelligence and have access to unprecedented levels of data, computing power, and most importantly, the top AI researchers from around the world. Given the resources at their disposal, it is only a matter of time before one of these companies crack the code on what is considered to be the holy grail of information technology. We are talking about a piece of software which will be capable of not only thinking generally, but can also take decisions based on what it has learned on its own. Once deployed on the internet, an artificial general intelligence would learn at an exponential rate, soaking up decades of data in mere seconds, at which point it's basically a coin toss on whether it decides to help us cure cancer and provides us with the technology for interstellar travel, or it decides that we are a pestilence on this planet which needs immediate eradication. This is why an online artificial general intelligence must be developed to feel empathy for humanity and everything we hold dear on planet Earth. So yeah, the internet of the future is shaping up to be a wild ride, and I for one can't wait to see how it all unfolds.